Now, I've made my feelings about gambling fairly well known, especially online gambling and the normalisation of sports betting, especially among teenagers. But I reckon there was a pretty good step in the right direction announced yesterday when Perth's only casino revealed that from December, you'll need an ID card with certain restrictions to use their pokey machines and their other electronic machines. But as always, there are ways that punters can still do an awful lot of gambling. I want to discuss some of the changes with Martin Thomas. He's the CEO of the Alliance for Gambling Reform. Hi, Martin.
Hi, good morning.
What do you think? Is it a step in the right direction? I mean, clamping down and making sure people have ID cards and putting certain limits in place, is that all a good thing?
Yeah, look, it is, and it's not often I come on programs and have some good news to talk about, unfortunately, in gambling in Australia, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. I guess it's also important to understand Crown's not necessarily doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It was a recommendation of the Royal Commission, which did uncover just some appalling things in terms of money laundering and facilitating organised crime. But this is certainly, a step in the right direction.
And it's 3 years after those Royal Commission recommendations were made, so they've taken a little while to get here. Let's just talk through some of these changes. So you'd have to have this ID card with a photo, your photo on it, and betting and time limits. So what's the deal there?
So it's a good thing in the sense that it allows you to pre-commit to how much losses you're prepared to have and to make this decision not when you're in front of the machine. Companies spend millions and millions of dollars making poker machines addictive. You can't believe the science behind it. I saw a report the other day that said if you put a poker machine in blue light and you lose $100, you actually still feel pretty good about yourself as distinct from, say, if it had a different coloured light. So the psychology behind this is extraordinary, and the machines themselves, it used to be one-arm bandits, and it used to be 5 cents a pop. On some machines, you can actually spend $7,000 in one go. So the key really is to allow people to make decisions when they're not in front of the machine. So you and I can be quite rational and say, okay, well, I'm happy to lose $100 a week or $200, and as soon as you reach that limit, you're stopped from playing for a certain period of time, possibly that week. And that's certainly a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But now I've been having a look at ways that I think people are still going to be able to get around this. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to do so, but you can set this limit. So when you get your card, there's a default limit of $300, but that can be changed. So you can change the limit, and there's no upper limit, right?
No, that's right. So there's nothing stopping you putting $1 million on there. But I guess we're happy in the sense that at least the decision-making is happening in the cold light of day and not when you're trying to chase losses or not when you're entranced by these machines. And these machines, I mean, I can tell you so many things about them. For instance, if you bet $1 and you lose 50 cents, they still light up as if you've won. So, you completely lose track of how you're going in many cases, and you feel really good about yourself and you've already done half your dough. So that's a positive. But look, I've got to say, it does say that they're going to limit it to a mere 12 hours, I think it is.
Yeah, a
which
day.
Is pretty extraordinary when you think of, say, 3 blocks of 4 hours. Certainly that's not healthy. But the other really important element of this is the role of organised crime, and the Royal Commission found it, but also the New South Wales Crime Commission, that unless you can have ID, criminal gangs use it to launder money. Sorry, it's too early in the morning for me. And there's evidence that millions and billions of dollars are being laundered through poker machines, particularly on the East Coast in pubs and clubs. But, I'm sure Perth, and that's what the Royal Commission found, Perth Casino would be a honeypot for organised crime when there is no ID.
Yes. All right. On the time limits, though, I know you're going into these broader issues, which is all great, but I just want to also point out that these time limits are the bit that I find a little bit ridiculous. So you alluded to it, 12 hours a day, 28 hours a week. They're the time limits that you would be facing. This is kind of good. After 3 consecutive hours of sitting at one of these machines, it forces you to take a 15-minute break. But Martin, when I looked into that only applies to these machines. You could wander off and play on a table or somewhere else in your 15-minute break.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Look, I guess what we really need to understand is casinos are really wanting to take all your money as much as you possibly can. The research shows that that those that really can't afford to lose the money lose the lion's share. And there was, you mentioned online gambling. There was a parliamentary inquiry into online gambling where the head of one of the big betting agencies pretty much admitted that if you win, they'll stop you playing, and if you're losing, they'll do everything they can to keep you losing. So I'm not surprised that elements of this just don't add up. But, on the upside, it is a step in the right direction. It looks like a very similar, if not the same, program that was put in Crown Victoria, yep. And it has had an impact. Unfortunately, in Victoria, because they have poker machines everywhere, people just left playing poker machines from the casino and went down the road to a pub. Now, Perth, being the enlightened state that it is the only one in the country, and I'm a Perth boy, that doesn't have poker machines in pubs and clubs, and more power to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try to keep it that way. That's really interesting. So apart from the fact people could wander off from Crown Melbourne to somewhere else to do their dough, it did have a positive impact, though, at the casino.
That's right, absolutely. And it is really seen as the gold standard to have an ID card with pre-commitments and that it's mandatory. Too often governments put these in, and the Victorian government is announced with great fanfare reform, but they made it a pilot, but they've made it voluntary. And while that seems a bit draconian, we're trying to protect people and to allow them to make good decisions, but to make good decisions, when they're not in front of machines, when they're not chasing losses.
Well, Martin, it's good to chat to you. It's nice to chat about something where, as we say, it's a bit of a step in the right direction, but don't get me started. We'll talk another time about more on sports betting and online stuff, because there's a long way to go, isn't there?
Absolutely, and unfortunately, unlike poker machines, Perth and Western Australia is not immune. It's getting all of us. It's in everyone's pocket, and particularly getting our kids. But as you say, don't get either of us started, otherwise the program will run over time. But thank you so much for your interest in this.
No worries.
And good to be able to talk about some good news.
Yeah, indeed. All right, we'll chat further another time. Martin Thomas there. He's the CEO of the Alliance for Gambling Reform, and they say there is a lot more reform needs to be done. Yeah, we'll talk about some of that other stuff another time. You know my feelings on this, targeting kids with sports betting and just making it so normal for them.